A very good morning to you and welcome to the news at 10 on NTA News 24. We are reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. I am Muslima Sholebo.
And I'm Musbah and Wahal. Thanks a lot for joining us. Here are the top stories.
Unconstitutional authority in Mali advised to unconditionally and with immediate effect release President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita and other senior government officials in detention.
Mali's coup leaders meet with civilian opposition, suggest transitional presidents either from the civilian populace or the military.
Funds approved for the takeoff of community policing in Nigeria.
.476 new cases of COVID-19 confirmed in Nigeria as the country's death toll from the virus hits 992.
We'll start with developments in Mali, and Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari is urging what he called the unconstitutional authority in the Republic of Mali to act responsibly by releasing unconditionally and with immediate effect President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita and other senior government officials in detention.
The president, who stated this while addressing the ECOWAS extraordinary session of Mali, maintains that military involvement in governance in whatever guise is an aberration. State House correspondent Adam Musambo reports.
Indeed, it saddens me greatly as we meet today to discuss the turn of events in Mali.
This extraordinary session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government is convened to discuss and find solutions to the disturbing political situation in Mali following Tuesday's coup d'etat. President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita, who announced his resignation, perhaps under duress to avoid bloodshed, is still in detention alongside Prime Minister Boubou Cissé and other senior members of his government. The action of the military, President Buhari said, runs counter to the letter and spirit of ECOWAS protocol on good governance and democracy.
The events in Mali are great setbacks for regional diplomacy, which have grave consequences for the peace and security of West Africa. Mali has not only descended into political chaos, but also socio-economic and security disaster with potential tragic consequences to the sub-region.
The authority of ECOWAS Heads of State and Government, the Nigerian leader insists, should not allow this dastardly act to stand.
The closure of borders already called for by ECOWAS should be our first line of action. We need to isolate series of sanctions regimes that can create and sustain sufficient pressure on the military to force a return to constitutional governance. A politically stable Mali is paramount and crucial to the stability of the sub-region. ECOWAS, the African Union, and the United Nations should not stand by while the situation deteriorates.
While appreciating the strong statements of condemnation by the international bodies, President Buhari urged them to continue working with ECOWAS until sanity returns to Mali with the restoration of civil administration. From the State House, Adam Musambo, NTA News.
And meanwhile, the heads of state and government of the Economic Community of West African states have resolved to remain steadfast and indeed unyielding in their determination towards the restoration of constitutional order, peace and security in the Republic of Mali.
This is contained in a declaration adopted after an extraordinary session on the political situation in the West African nation. State House correspondent Adam Musambo has the report again.
The interactive engagement by the ECOWAS leaders held virtually was informed by the coup d'etat in Mali and its potential consequences on the social well-being, security and economy of the West African nation and the sub-region. The meeting, which lasted about 4 hours behind closed doors, critically analyzed the situation and came up with far-reaching measures on the way forward. Apart from insisting on the restoration of constitutional order as well as the unconditional release of President Ibrahim Keita and all those arrested, the West African leaders also ordered an immediate stoppage of economic relations with Mali. Exceptions are, however, granted to staple foods, fuel and medication for the sake of Malian populace. In the meantime, doors of the ECOWAS leaders will remain opened for continued engagement with all parties to the crisis. They therefore mandated former President Goodluck Jonathan, who is the ECOWAS Special Envoy and head of the mediation mission, to visit Mali alongside the President of the ECOWAS Commission, Jean-Claude Cassibrou, to convey the resolutions adopted at the extraordinary summit. President Muhammadu Buhari and his counterparts commended the ECOWAS chairman and President of Niger, Muhammadu Isufu, for his continued efforts at addressing the political situation in Mali since the results of the disputed parliamentary elections were announced in March. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
And Mali co-leaders meet with the opposition on mode of transitional president. For details of this, let's join Oyemi Ajayi of our foreign desk.
The coup leaders in Mali say a transitional president will be appointed and might either be drawn from the civilian population or the military. West African leaders have called for Ibrahim Boubacar Keita to be reinstated as the UN called for the release.
Okay, we apologize for the wrong pictures in that report. We'll bring you to you the course of the bulletin. Now, an assessment of the impact of ECOWAS Vision 2020 as well as a proposal of a new vision post-2020 has informed a national consultation workshop organized by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Finance, Budget and National Planning in conjunction with the ECOWAS Commission.
And Chimobi Walter Naji reports that the workshop is further aimed at deepening regional integration.
Having a robust economic vision both in Nigeria and the ECOWAS region is regarded as a veritable tool of regional development, and Nigeria has played a vital role in ensuring ECOWAS achieves this vision. In recent times, the regulatory role of ECOWAS has been brought to question following various trade and political infractions in different member states. Now, this necessitated these stakeholders' consultative workshop to find lasting solutions to the problems of insecurity, trade barriers, and regional integration.
And in response to the many persistent challenges facing the region, the ECOWAS has established a roadmap to come up with a post-2020, in other words, ECOWAS 2050 vision for the sub-region. And the objective of this workshop, therefore, is to collectively assess the ECOWAS Vision 2020 and to ensure that the ECOWAS post-2020 vision reflects Nigeria's national interest.
I would therefore like to appeal to the Federal Republic of Nigeria to start to reflect on how the new ECOWAS Vision 2050 will be mainstreamed into the long-term development plans of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
To also bring the people together in a focused group discussion forum to gather their views, experience, opinions, and share ideas on the three fundamental areas, that is, the achievement of ECOWAS during the implementation of ECOWAS Vision 2020, the new development challenges in the region that need to be addressed post-2020 Vision Blueprint.
It is expected that the workshop will create some sort of blueprint for a post-2020 vision. In Abuja, Chimubi Walter Naji, NTA News.
And now to security matters. Determined to improve the security architecture in the country, President Muhammadu Buhari has approved 13 billion naira for the takeoff of community policing in Nigeria.
And 16 of the 20 states that have completed documentation received 1.6 billion naira World Bank grants on COVID-19. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports on these and other deliberations of the National Economic Council meeting held this Thursday.
Utilization of the funding for the community policing in the states.
Governor Abdullahi Sule, during a media briefing after the meeting held virtually and anchored from the office of the Vice President, recalls the presentation of the National Security Advisor on the state of security in Nigeria in June 2019, and says the concern of the National Economic Council led to the inauguration of an ad hoc committee on security and community policing, headed by Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State.
And the federal government has already approved 13 billion naira for this purpose, to be used for community policing in Nigeria.
And Vice President Yemi Osinbajo directed the governors, the Secretary to Government of the Federation, the Finance Minister, and the Inspector General of Police to work out how the funds would be utilized to ensure an effective implementation of community policing in the country. On the World Bank stimulus package for states in Nigeria and COVID-19 pandemic, Governor Abdullahi Sule says the institution has approved 35 states in Nigeria, as one of the states is yet to file in its application. Of the first 22 states, 16 have received 100 million naira each, while 5 are on the list for the next batch. Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, in her presentation to the Council, says flooding is the most common and recurring disaster in Nigeria, which is affecting more people and causing more economic losses. She says this is a trend likely to continue.
We are seeking for the support and the guidance of the state government to avert this fraud that has been forecasted.
Our council discussed the forex situation in the country regarding the divergence between the exchange rate in the high and yield window compared to the BDC rate. The VP suggested and council resolved that the Senate governor and the finance minister should engage the NGF, Nigerian Governors Forum's leadership on this issue, especially the concerns of the governors on the monetization rate used for FAC and revert to NEC.
In the State House, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
This is the news at 10 on NTA News 24. We are reaching you on the network service of the NTA. Still ahead. Now, the Brent crude futures plunge amid growing concerns on energy demand from the world's biggest economy and delayed talks on post-COVID-19 economic stimulus package. Now, our business desk will bring you up to speed on these and more.
The adverse impact of the coronavirus has continued to tell on oil-producing nations, with major producers warning of higher risk to demand recovery if the pandemic persists. This is as oil prices further dropped on Thursday. Brent crude declined further by 36% at $45.01 a barrel, having slipped 0.2% in the previous session. U.S. oil was down 38 cents at $42.55 a barrel, following the 1.6 million barrel decline in the previous week.
Because of COVID-19, demand is depressed. Post-COVID-19, there will be a rebound in activity. And once there's a rebound in activity, demand will come back. And we believe that then it might even not be necessary for us to cut again.
And in the equities market, investors gained 18.06 billion naira as NSE all-share index firms up by 0.13% to sustain positive posture. The market closed at 25,171.32 basis points, as against plus 0.14% appreciation. Its year-to-date returns currently stands at minus 6.22%.
On electoral matters, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is counting on the fourth estate of the realm to make the conduct of the governorship elections in Edo and Ondo states and the outstanding by-elections in the country this year a success.
That is right. And to this end, it has been meeting with journalists and media executives to fine-tune arrangements. The latest of such engagements is in Benin, Edo State. Ogochukwu Kaona reports.
Independent National Electoral Commission, faced with the task of conducting the Edo and Ondo governorship elections and 15 outstanding by-elections within the context of COVID-19, is left with no option than to fine-tune its modus operandi of conducting elections. It has therefore released supplementary regulations, guidelines, and voters' code of conduct, rules of engagement for those on electoral duties. This interface, first with journalists and then media executives in the print and electronic, is part of a series of engagements with all key players. The Commission warns that no acts under any guise should jeopardize the process.
The Commission will not tolerate violence or violent conduct of any manner, in terms of the rallies of political parties and their campaigns, and also in terms of what happens on election day.
To further ensure transparency, the Commission has introduced innovations technologically, including the creation of a portal to address media accreditation and other processes. Voters are expected to adhere strictly to guidelines as accreditation and voting are to hold simultaneously beginning at 8:30 in the morning to 2:30 in the afternoon.
In this area, there is need to continually educate voters.
It needs the collaboration of everybody that has the interest of Edo State at heart.
In Benin, Ogochukwu Kaona, NTA News.
And in the meantime, President Muhammad Buhari has approved the reappointment of the Managing Director, Niger Delta Power Holding Company, Nigeria Limited, Mr. Joseph Chiedu Ubo, and 2 executive directors in the company with effect from the 25th of August 2020. A statement from the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation indicates that Engineer Ife Oyedele is reappointed Executive Director, Engineering and Technical Services, while Malam Babayo Show also retains his position as Executive Director, Finance and Administration. President Buhari enjoins the appointees to bring their wealth of experience and expertise to reposition and reinvigorate the Niger Delta Power Holding Company and discharge their responsibilities with the utmost sense of government's commitment to the provision of adequate power to Nigerians.
Let's give you the latest figures on COVID-19. The country, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has announced 476 new cases of the virus in the country. The latest figures released bring the total number of confirmed cases to 50,964 infections in the country. A breakdown of the new cases from 18 states indicates that Lagos recorded the highest number for the day with 235 new cases, while FCT has 44 new cases, Kaduna 41, Borno 33, Plateau 28, Abia and Edo State recorded 13 new cases each. Others are Rivers 12, Imo 11, Oyo 10, Kano 9, Kwara 7, Enugu and Katsina states recorded 5 new cases each, while Gombe and Ogun got 4 each. The day's tally is completed by Nasarawa and Zamfara State recording just a case each. Confirmed cases, Bright State, Lagos has the highest with 17,327, followed by FCT with 4,881, and Oyo comes third with 3,017 cases. With the latest development, total number of active cases stands at 12,403, while 37,569 cases have been successfully treated and discharged, while 992 patients have unfortunately died of the virus.
And the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has urged state governments and key players in the educational sector to intensify enforcement of COVID-19 guidelines, especially during the ongoing WAEC examinations.
Chairman of the task force, Boss Mustafa, says this is necessary to guard against the high prospects of community transmission among young people. Mitairi Ikpen reports.
The World Health Organization has warned that young people are aiding the spread of COVID-19. As the youth constitute majority of Nigeria's population, the PTF urges everyone to be on guard.
The recent case of infection among students sitting for the senior secondary school examination calls for more vigilance by the education sector and all of us.
Meanwhile, there is significant progress in local medical research on COVID-19.
173 COVID-19 researches have been collated, and 13 of these researches completed. Relevant findings from the completed research will be sent to the PTF to help guide response.
Have interest in the COVAX facility, which is a Gavi-supported global initiative to procure and assure equitable access to vaccines as soon as they are available. This will prioritize Nigeria for allocation of a part of 2 billion vaccine doses that will be secured in a special plan to protect the interests of poorer countries.
The NCDC has also launched online portals to fast-track notification of COVID-19 test results.
We communicate only negative results in through the platform. This is actually to ensure that the positive results are well taken care of, because we will need psychosocial support. It's not good for you to get a report that you're positive on SMS.
There are certain countries that have placed ban on Nigerians and residents of Nigeria going to their country. So, in this process, we're doing determining who will be allowed to fly to Nigeria. The principle of reciprocity will be applied. The conditions you give Nigerians to travel to your country will apply the same thing. If you ban us from coming to your country, the same will apply the other way.
With male to female infection rate for COVID-19 put at 2-to-1, the PTF appeals to Nigerians to get tested and know their status. In Abuja, Mitairi Ikpen, NTA News.
And the Nigeria Governors Forum is stepping up and scaling up capacity in meeting desperate situations in the fight against COVID-19 and adopting sustainable measures in the delivery of critical services through increased commitment to intervention support partners.
Abubakar Usman Akwanga reports that this was captured in a communique drafted at the end of its 15th teleconference on COVID-19.
The Nigerian Governors Forum is facilitating access to increased funds from the Universal Basic Education Commission through counterpart waiver from federal government in view of the impact of COVID-19. 29 states have received funding from Regional Disease Surveillance Systems Enhancement Project to strengthen public health response. This is in addition to molecular laboratories in 32 states. Data from COVID-19 tests conducted in the country show that 20 local government areas account for 50% of the COVID-19 cases. Hence, states are required to scale up risk communication campaigns. The NGF ad hoc committee led by Dr. Kayode Fayemi met with President Buhari over prevailing security situation in the country, where commitment to end the crisis topped the agenda. The forum received an update from Governor Aminu Waziri Tambuwal of Sokoto State on the implementation of Executive Order 10 and financial autonomy for state legislature and judiciary. The NGF, also in collaboration with World Bank, has negotiated a flexible payment term for the acquisition of a software e-Procurement solution for all states in the country with 30% advance payment. States are expected to publish a consolidated revenue code, public procurement and debt management laws before 30th of September 2020 to be assessed under the State's Financial Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Annual Performance Assessment. State governments promise to cooperate with the verification teams from the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation for assessment of the 2019 STFAS, as well as prevailed on doctors to ease their demands to avert a prolonged industrial dispute. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
And as Nigerians join the rest of the world to mark the 2020 World Mosquito Day, medical experts are advocating more funds to meet and eradicate malaria in the country. This was the submission of experts on NTA's current affairs program, Nigeria Today. Malam Musa Al-Hassan Mohammed of the FCT Malaria Elimination Program says Nigerians must change their sanitation and hygiene behavior to complete government's efforts in eliminating malaria.
Every month on the need to keep environment clean, and a committee involve our health promotion experts that visit communities to educate people on how to keep environment clean, to avoid containers that keep, even if it is rainwater for some days, that they are breeding ground for mosquito, as mosquito are more during rainy season. That shows that there are avenues, areas where communities and individuals have to take responsibility to clear the environment, avoid keeping water, because those mosquitoes that cause malaria thrive more in those fresh water and water that flow in our gutters. So keeping environment clean, we have a committee in public health in FCT that's linked up with community health in community that are going around to sensitize, educate people through their community leaders and religious leaders. We visit them monthly to educate them on why they have to keep the environment clean.
So, and then we also know that malaria causes illnesses that affects productivity and even prevent our young children from going to school, or farmers going to farm, or workers going to work, etc. And government also training the health worker, building their capacity, and also, as you ask my other colleague, there's also need to beef up and bring back the sanitary inspectors so they can go to house to synthesize mothers and people in our household on to avoid breeding places of mosquitoes.
While National Coordinator Malaria Eliminating Program, Dr. Audu Bala Mohammed says elimination of malaria is not just for urban settlers, but also urge the rural settlers to also contribute their quota to achieving government's goal of eliminating malaria in 2030 in the country. Nigeria Today comes up every weekdays on NTA News 24. Now, we are still reaching you on the network service